Good morning. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It's Friday, March 20th, 2026. I believe it's the first day of spring.
It is.
Right. It's just after 8 o'clock in the morning, and we have a very busy day ahead of us. We are going to do a straw poll on this budget before we go home today. And I think we're doing pretty well there. In the meantime, we also have 6 bills, possibly 7, that we have to deal with. So just to let you know, we have, we don't have that one. We have the T bill, which is what we're about to hear. We have an unclaimed property bill, a treasurer's bill, the homelessness response, Chair Wood's bill, the yield bill, the emergency management bill, the unaccompanied homeless youth bill, and I will learn later whether we're going to do the landlord tenant bill. So we have 7 bills today, many of which are not uncomplicated.
Now, what would the intended snowstorm here over each one?
We will see how we go and what. But I think the bigger storm is going to be Sunday, not today.
Yeah.
So we will discuss all that later on as we hear weather updates. And in the meantime, we have Damian here from Legislative Council, and we have Logan, and we have Chris from Joint Fiscal Office. So who wants to come up to the table and talk to us about the T bill? Damian, do you get elected?
I guess I do the short stuff.
We're nice. We tell jokes.
For such a long setup, that was a good punchline.
Setup.
Here.
All right.
So what do we have? I think this is part of the T bill.
Yeah.
The T bill on a page
Oh.
and a. Where's the means?
I have other copies of that big spreadsheet if anyone wants.
Yeah, I think we have a few. And then there's a fiscal note. And Damian, thank you for coming this morning. I know it was, I really appreciate it.
Okay.
The kids are old enough to walk to work, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, unfortunately, they repealed those allowances for child labor. So, and it's a day off from school. It's parent teacher conference day. So I'm going right from here to a parent teacher conference. So.
And you know, we do not need to hear the whole T bill. We just need to mostly hear the stuff that's related to us, and then we'll vote it out. So
for the record, I'm Damian Leonard from the Office of Legislative Counsel. And the bill is H944. The biggest section that relates to you is section 1, which despite being boilerplate adopts the whole $900+ million transportation program. So that is the largest appropriation in the bill. That's boilerplate every year. And then, of course, it's dependent on you actually appropriating that money. Inside the bill itself, there are a few things that affect appropriations of the state. Section 4 allows for waivers of certain bonding requirements for contracts below $250,000, where right now the waiver rate is at $100,000. Section 8 of the bill allows the Green Mountain Transit Authority to seek voluntary member contributions, grants, donations, and other non-assessment revenue to build their budget so that they need to take less state money.
And I know that's been an ongoing problem. So they haven't been doing that.
So they have a charter. So you need to amend their charter to allow them to do certain things. And this is one of the steps they're taking. I don't know that this will solve all of the challenges that they face, but it opens doors for new revenues to be built into their budget.
Excellent.
There's section 9 allows for an extension of public-private partnership authority for the Agency of Transportation. There's another project that they're looking to do. The project you may be familiar with is the Exit 7 travel 24-hour sort of travel plaza right off of Exit 7 in Berlin. Let's see, the section 11 increases maximum grants for the Transportation Alternatives Grant Program. It doesn't actually change the amount of money going into the program. But you may see that goes from 300,000 to 600,000 with a 1-year increase to 1.2 million to help get some federal funds out the door. So in the underlying bill in sections 14 and 15, your House Transportation Committee was going to propose to direct 1/2 of pilot fund revenues to the general state aid for town highways program. And that's 1/2 above pilot payments and grand list stabilization payments.
Can you tell us what page that is on your bill?
Or, I'm sorry, I'm going quickly.
15.
15.
Section
15.
14.
Sections 14 and 15. Yep. I'm working off of my outline
Oh, is there?
that I'm not scrolling for you.
Okay. The pilot special fund,
Yep.
most of it is not new, but
Yeah, so your House Transportation Committee proposed to take basically 1/2 of the excess revenues. So the local option tax revenues that exceed the commitments in the pilot special fund and direct it to general state aid for town highways. Your Ways and Means Committee proposes stripping those two sections out.
that was.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then section 16 includes a $192,000 appropriation from the transportation fund to the agency to continue the Drive Electric Vermont program. So that was $325,000 last year. They're proposing to continue it at a reduced rate.
192.
Yep.
Quick explanation again of what that program does.
That program provides support for various programs and activities related to encouraging EV ownership. It includes coordination of consumer education and outreach events. They've got a website that includes information on EV ownership to sort of educate people about home charging and public charging and maintenance and other considerations.
It's not about incentives, it's about telling people about incentives.
It's about telling people about incentives or other opportunities, and there aren't any incentives currently.
Except for gas prices, but that's the good news.
So, yes, but they also include technical assistance to municipalities and businesses that are trying to add chargers and technical assistance for infrastructure development and so forth.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's see, go back to my outline. So section 19 is going to affect the state budget in the future. This is the mileage-based user fee.
Tell me again.
And this starts on page 21 of the bill and runs basically to the end of the bill.
Okay.
Your House Transportation Committee put in an initial version of this. The House Ways and Means Amendment strips out all of that and replaces it with a new version. So the House Ways and Means Amendment takes what was in the House Transportation Amendment and it replaces it with a new mileage-based user fee, and it actually retitles the chapter Road Usage Charges. Creates two subchapters in there. The first is the mileage-based user fee. The House Ways and Means program is simplified to a program where at the end of, so from inspection to inspection, after your second inspection in a year, they read your mileage, figure out how many miles you traveled, you get a bill from the state. And then
They would figure that out.
so that's the current proposal. There's a proposal on the Senate to go to 2-year inspections, so that may have to get updated. although that's delayed and it includes a direction to figure out how to update the mileage-based user fee. At that point, you either can pay your bill as a lump sum or break it out into monthly or quarterly payments to make it more affordable. The estimate is that it'd be an average of about $154 a year for an EV owner, which is designed to track the average amount that a person driving a regular internal combustion engine pays in gas taxes over the course of the year.
So I have a plug-in electric hybrid.
You will stay on the infrastructure fee plus gas tax.
So I will not be subject to the mileage.
Not immediately. So there's no plan to transition other cars, but one of the things that AOT is working on is a plan to transition because the gas tax is flat at this point because vehicles across the board are getting more efficient and it's not tied to inflation, which means that year over year, we have less money to maintain bridges and roads. So they're looking at transitioning to something that better tracks actual usage of the highways.
Right, which makes sense. And Tom has a question.
What is the relation to calling this an excise tax? Many states that we like to claim are low tax states also include excise taxes on vehicles. And this is setting out just EVs. So it's a little bit, I won't call it discriminatory, but it's just about, I understand the need to charge people on the mileage, but what would be the difference between doing something like this, which has been talked about for years, which no one is still not sure how we're going to do it kind of thing, as opposed to just saying if you have an EV, you should or could owe an excise tax. And I'm not advocating for that. I'm just curious.
Right. So the difference is that an excise tax, and I'm not an expert on excise taxes, but the difference is that this charge is based on how much you actually use the infrastructure that you're paying for versus an excise tax, which charges based on something like the value of your vehicle. My two colleagues from JFO may be able to talk a little bit more about that, but what could happen here is, so if you own an EV, but you drive very little, it's just to go to the grocery store, the hardware store, et cetera, and you're not using the infrastructure a lot, you wouldn't pay a large bill. But if you're on the roads every single day, racking up lots of miles, and consequently contributing a lot to the wear and tear of the road, you'll pay more.
I'm sorry, I'm missing this as I think about it. Is this considered a fee or a tax? Because a fee is a usage thing. I choose.
It's called.
Well, no, I know, but I choose
Yeah.
to buy an EV, so therefore I'm choosing to pay for this. In a way, I'm choosing to pay for this fee for the usage of the roads as if it's a toll, as if it's
This is considered or called a fee because it is tied to your usage. So similar to tolls, et cetera, you're paying for the usage of the road as opposed to a tax where you're paying on the value of the vehicle or some other value of something else. So this here is a fee. There is a EV rental car usage charge in the next chapter that I'll get to, which is probably more akin to a tax, but that to some extent it is, semantics, but this is tied to usage, not value. So you could be driving a Chevy Bolt, which is a low cost EV, or you could be driving a Mercedes-Benz EQB, which is a relatively high cost EV. If you drive the same number of miles, you're going to pay the same amount.
Thank you.
Yeah. Your purchase and use tax will be different, but that's a separate issue. So, yeah.
And that's a tax.
That is a tax, and that's on the value when you buy it.
Right.
So,
Okay.
great. So the Ways and Means simplifies it down to just that one payment method for now. It adds exemptions, so there's an exemption for US government vehicles and state government vehicles, as well as for EV rental cars. The concern with EV rental cars is because you can register them in any state. The concern is that the companies would just stop registering them in Vermont. So instead, there's a charge on each rental transaction for an EV in Vermont to hopefully cover some of the usage in Vermont.
Are we doing the bill or the amendment?
We're gonna do both. I mean, but
Yeah.
We're talking on the bill right now.
Well, so this strips out an entire section from the bill. So if it's simpler, if we can do, this is on the amendment.
we have the amendment. The amendment is on our committee page, is passed by Ways and Means.
So,
Yeah, just want to make sure I'm. looking
no,
for-
that's okay.
Right, so we're sort of talking about the amendment right now.
Yeah.
It's the MBUF, the
Yeah,
mileage
so we-
based user fee.
In the bill itself, all of the MBUF mileage-based user fee sections are stripped out, and the Ways and Means bill replaces them with new sections, with the exception of the technical changes to the infrastructure fee, which just dedicates that money to the transportation fund instead of the short-term program that is still at ACCD to help subsidize chargers at multifamily residences and small businesses. So that infrastructure fee was used to help build out level 1 and 2 chargers, which are the slower chargers there. They're the very slow and the sort of moderate speed home charger type chargers. And this would direct that money back to the transportation fund now for plug-in hybrid owners or hybrid owners. Well, plug-in hybrid owners are the ones who are covered by that. So your $4,450 per year will go now into the transportation fund for general purposes. So, but the other changes in the MBUF are mostly around things like appeals and what the process is for that, and cleaning up some things where it was duplicative language. Then I mentioned there is a road usage charge on EV rental cars to capture their usage in Vermont when they're rented. So what happens is the rental charge, you'll see taxes and fees on there, and this will be a new 1% tax on the EV rental charges only.
I mean, what BEV is?
Sorry, that's a battery electric vehicle.
Oh.
As opposed to a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
yeah, there are, BEV is the term our statute uses to differentiate battery electric vehicles.
PHEV or something like
Yeah,
that.
PHEVs, PEVs, all plug-in electric vehicles, which includes those that are plug-in hybrids, both where the internal combustion engine is used to drive and where it also is just a range extender. So there's a variety.
Much more complicated than this.
Technology is moving fast.
Yes.
So that's the MBUF program. The other things that are worth noting there is that the fourth instance of amendment in the Ways and Means Amendment proposes to transfer $2.2 million from the Transportation Infrastructure Bond Fund to the Transportation Fund this year, with 1.7 million of that being allocated to general state aid for town highways, and the remaining 500,000 just allocated to general purposes in the T fund. So that's the other major thing there. We're coming up on the half hour, and I don't want to make Chris.
And I know you also have to go, so.
Yeah, so I do want to yield to my JFO colleagues here if you don't have any other questions on the language.
Okay, one more.
So what was the main change between the original language and what came out of Ways and Means?
So the original language had 3 methods for paying your MBUF, your mileage-based user fee. It provided for the option that's in here at the end of your year when you know the mileage, getting a bill for that, It provided for the possibility of a pay-as-you-go plan, which is now a requirement in the Ways and Means Amendment that they come back with a plan to start offering that, because they haven't developed that plan yet. So it was basically at the commissioner's discretion at some point in the future that could be offered. And then for newly registered EVs, it would have required an advance payment of an estimated amount and then a true up at the end of the year. And Ways and Means.
What about monies going for town highways?
With the town highways, this actually puts more into town highway than the transportation bill. So the transportation bill took what would have been about $200,000 according to current estimates from JFO, from the excess local option tax revenues and put that to town highway aid. And this takes the 1.7 million that was sitting in the transportation infrastructure bond fund and puts it there. So this puts more money in the short term into town highways. So it's not clear what the excess local option tax revenue would have done in out years at this point, but it was 200,000 this year split across towns based on a formula.
John.
So I just want to make sure I understand about what was struck out here. 15 here with, well, 15 and 19, yes, but state aid for, I'm not sure I understand the state aid for town highways.
So the general,
How they changed that. I talked to Rep Walker about it a little bit the last couple of days.
yeah.
It's changed.
Yeah, so the general state aid for town highways is a formula program.
Right.
Each year, the base appropriation for it can either stay the same or go up depending on inflationary factors.
Right.
And what the transportation proposal was to take those excess local option tax revenues after you've made pilot payments and everything else that the pilot fund pays for on a regular basis, plus the payments for brand list and appraisal assistance that have been put in as one-time funds. So after that, it would have taken any excess revenues coming in, and then 50% would have gone into the pilot fund and 50% would have been redirected to general state aid for town highways. For this coming fiscal year, that is projected to work out to roughly 200,000 going to each, actually a little less than that. So the Ways and Means stripped that out and replaced it with the transportation infrastructure bond fund as money that is carried forward, that is sitting there and unused this year. And so it took 2.2 million of that and sent 1.7 to general state aid for town highways, and then 500,000 to the general transportation fund. And the 500,000 covers a couple of different things in the transportation fund, one of which is potentially lost revenues from the upfront payments for the mileage-based user fee, but we don't have a good estimate of what those are. And my JFO colleagues can talk more about that.
Thank you.
One more, and then we're going to let Damien go.
Okay.
So money is now one time instead of coming from pilot, right? So
Yeah, so it's one time instead of coming from
Keeps-
pilot.
pilot keeps growing and it's there. So what's the trade-off there? How are they going to use the money?
I think that's a question for all of you in a future legislature. So one of the things with the pilot fund is it only started fully funding the pilot payments in 2024, and it is dependent on economic conditions. So the payments coming out of it would have fluctuated depending on actual tax receipts from the local option taxes and continued adoption of them. But yeah, this is a one-time boost. It's not an ongoing boost. So that is probably the trade-off there. More money up front, but essentially not as much down the road unless you find another funding stream.
You need to go. Thank you very much
Thank you.
again.
Yeah.
Hope it goes well this morning.
Yeah, and if you do need an amendment, just send an email and I can come back and get directions.
We won't.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Take care. Logan, Chris, one or both for this review?
Morning, Logan Newberg, the Joint Fiscal Office. I can either start with the big sort of budget on a page that has all the appropriations that they're, I guess, authorizing. You will be making those appropriations if you approve this in the budget, or we can start with the fiscal note, which sort of goes through a lot of what Damien spoke about, but can talk to numbers if there's more questions on that
I want
side.
to just do this really quickly at a high level. I'm not sure what the percentage means, for example.
Yep.
Doesn't add up to 100.
Are you on the joint fiscal note or the other one?
The big spread.
The big spread
Thank you.
should be the
Thank you.
budget on the page. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yes, so this is this is all the money that is in the transportation program this year in the big white book. This is sort of broken out by the department going down the sheet, and then you have by the funds where the money is coming from at the top there. The highlighted column is all funds, so if you just add up the other ones, and then that percentage is the percentage going to that appropriation or that department compared to the total of all the funds in the budget. So for example, the Department of Motor Vehicles at 51.6 million is about 5.5%. So I'll just highlight some of the bigger ones here. This B903, the program development. This is the vast majority of the transportation budget. This is all of the projects, all the bridges, the highways, all those sort of things. Total is $463 million this year. Most of that coming from federal funds. And then we have our state match portion as well as some other funds, which you can see there on the right.
So this spreadsheet doesn't show what the totals were for last year, so we have no basis.
This one doesn't. I can show you one and send the committee one that compares it to what was passed last year, just for the sake of time. Maybe this one, but we can get into.
I think that would be great if you would,
Yep,
always
send
help
that
to
to
see.
everyone. Of course.
This doesn't give us any context
Yep.
that way, so thank you.
So the other big ones are just the maintenance. This is our largest T fund source. This is almost all coming from the transportation fund. It's $112 million this year. That's almost a third of our transportation dollars. Rail, $60 million this year. Total V-Trans programs, these are things that are happening at the Agency of Transportation or through their shop, is 845 almost million dollars this year. And then we get into the sort of town highway programs. This is money that goes out to towns to pay for a variety of different things, bridges, structures. You all talked about, and Damien mentioned this town highway aid program. They'll be receiving a little bit of extra money. Sort of in the base budget, it's $31.2 million this year. And then if you look down here, the total going out to town highways is about 89.5 million. And then you can get the total AOT programs total there at the bottom, $934 million this year.
Yes, Wayne, go ahead.
So you heard my questions about the town aid part. They're going to get some extra money. Is there, compared to last year, is there any major change? I'm concerned about town highways.
Yes.
Is there any, do you see any downside, what came out of Ways and Means?
So this, and you'll see here, this one-time appropriation to the town highway aid, the 1.7, that is just sort of one time in addition to what they were already going to get within this budget. And within statute, this appropriation, the B915, has a sort of inflator based on either, I believe it's the CPI growth for the year or growth in AOT appropriations. So this should grow every year or at least not decrease. this additional funding that they're going to get is in addition to sort of what is already set out and doesn't affect that calculation in future years.
It's not doing it. In 50 years, the pilot's not gonna pay.
Correct. Yep. So then there are 3 one-time appropriations. There's some money for the state match portion of funds going to relocate the central garage. This is 1.36. In the budget, there is an additional transfer from an insurance reserve fund for this same amount. It'll be transferred into the T fund, and then the T fund will spend this on the state match portion of relocating the central garage. There is the Drive Electric Vermont one-time appropriation, which Damien mentioned. That's $192,000, and then the transfer and one-time appropriation of the town highway aid for 1.7 million. Then at the other bottom page, these are just additional sort of requirements of the T fund. We send money to BGS for the operation of the info centers on the highway. That's $4.7 million. There's PAYAC. And then money goes to ACCD. Damien also mentioned this from this EV infrastructure fee. That money gets sent to them for their program, and that's about $1 million this year. In this bottom thing, to finish this up, you'll see that TIB transfer that was mentioned earlier, that $2.2 million, and that transfer from the insurance reserve fund to pay for that one time that we mentioned there. The rest of this is fairly standard. Are there any other questions on these numbers?
Nope, not seeing any.
Great.
Want to quickly take us through the
Fiscal notes?
fiscal note?
Yes. Quickly run through this one. Damien mentioned pretty much all of these sections. So I'll just re-highlight them very briefly. Section 11 is the increase in the maximum amount that we can grant it from the Transportation Alternatives Grant Program from 300,000 to 600,000. Section 12 would, for an FY27, allow them to make grants up to $1.2 million, and then afterwards it revert back to that 600,000. 16 is the Drive Electric, which we had talked about, the $192,000 appropriation. 19 is the mileage-based user fee. I won't go into all the details here, except for I will note in this little chart, based on the current information I have and the numbers that we know, this will, in the first probably 2 fiscal years, lead to a sort of net revenue decrease due to the repeal of this EV infrastructure fee that we are currently collecting. And then in 29 and beyond, this will sort of net, when you take into those account, start to generate additional money. Part of the $2.2 million that is being transferred from the TIB to the T fund, there's 500,000 left in the T fund to make up for this loss in net revenue. Section 19, chapter 2 is the road, the rental vehicle charge that Damien mentioned, charging the 1% on the value. This will generate roughly $20,000. And then the last 2, we've sort of discussed. The EV infrastructure fee going to ACCD will no longer be going to ACCD. And then the transfer that we had mentioned of that 2.2 million and what will happen there. Very quick. I'm happy to answer questions or follow up if there are any after this as well. I do think there are a couple, it's up to the committee, I suppose. There are a couple of appropriations that historically would be taken out and put into the big bill. I can work with Dave if that is the route you all want to go as well this year.
What's our plan, Chris? I don't remember.
We'll take a look and see whether it makes sense to take any of section 23 out of the bill. It might be okay to ride in the bill as it is. But I would just like for the committee that when we mark up the language for the big bill, we'll want to add one-time appropriation language from the T fund, speak to the 192,000 for Drive Electric and the 1.7 million for town highway aid, which is standard practice for what we do when we still match it. Those are the only money changes from the gov rec. What's in section 23 of the T bill
Can you tell us which page that is?
I'm sorry, I'm on page 11.
Oh, effective dates?
Oh, I'm looking at the ways and means.
Oh, hang on.
That's the 11-page document.
Yeah, okay, so section 22 is the M box, section 23 is the transfer.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, obviously the committee's call, I actually think this language can probably stay in this bill.
Yeah.
As long as you're aware of it, it's the interfund transfer from the TIF to the T fund. And
Okay.
the language around the 1.7 for town highway aid. We would just want to, belt and suspender it with little
Yeah.
one sentence, one time approach and the big bill.
right, we usually put it in the D section and the transfers.
Right.
And so if we do them both, that's fine. You know what, I'll let Emily and you duke that out. It doesn't really matter. It's typically what we do.
I think this might be able to run.
Just ride with this.
I think so, but we'll.
Well, sometimes people like to see them all in one place, so I am agnostic, so if you guys, shot and have a
And it's
preference.
It's just so isolated in its scope relative to the rest of the budget that it
Yeah.
might be clean and easy to just.
Yeah,
ride here.
yeah. Okay, so that's one, and there's a second one too, or is that just that one?
There's the 192,
Right.
Yes.
Red Electric, and then just the 2.2 transfer and the 1.7.
Yeah,
Those are other transfers all within,
yeah, it's all within the.
right, so it doesn't affect our budget.
Yeah, it does.
All right, Lynn,
Yeah, I'm just curious. We have $1 million for going to ACCD for EVSE, and it sounds like you want to get rid of that in section 20. Is that what I'm hearing? And why would we send something like that to ACCD?
That was the construct that was approved by the General Assembly when this fee was first enacted. The revenue generated from the EV infrastructure fee was dedicated to that department for a program that increased EV charging or infrastructure access across the state. That was the choice that was made at the time. The proposal now is to sort of, one portion of this fee will be sort of funds that are repealed, and then the other portion is being proposed to just be sent into the general transportation fund for general use instead of going there.
And so I'm corrected
go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, the intent when the infrastructure fee was put in was that it was supposed to be a short-term measure for only a few years until a mileage-based user fee took effect for battery electric vehicles. So this was always contemplated to be like this for a few years. So this would be the last year that the $89 infrastructure fee would be in place funding that program.
In our next fiscal year, right, that'll be the last time.
Correct.
Correct.
Anybody have any other questions on the T-bill? It's not affecting our budget.
Votes.
We're gonna vote. Oh, the votes were in, I had written this down, I thought, but now, it's on my, here it is.
So
The transportation was 1100 and House Ways and Means was 911. So it's pretty standard transportation bill. Are people ready to vote on this so we can move it along? We have 7 bills today. It's now recording everything I'm saying again.
And translating it into Greek.
That would be more interesting for sure. John,
You mentioned that Brett Walker's here. We got a
does anybody have any questions for, I passed unanimously out of your committee, congratulations, so. I think if we don't have any other questions. So first, I guess we have to, we do one vote. It's the bill as amended by Ways and Means. So Ways and Means cleaned up the M-bus, made that. And actually, Chair Walker, did you all do a straw poll on the Ways and Means amendment?
you have not heard Ways and Means Amendment back into it yet.
Okay. But that's how it's coming to us, is as amended. So, all right, we're good to vote on that?
I guess so, it's a procedure a little odd, but.
It's not gonna, it's nice to know, but it's not gonna make any difference on our vote. We're the only ones who have possession of the bill, so they're not gonna ever have possession, so that whatever they'll do, they'll do a straw vote anyway. But I'm guessing that you think you're generally okay with that amendment by Ways and Means? if you want to introduce yourself, Matt, I'm sorry, I'm getting on the spot here.
Good morning, thanks for the opportunity, Matt Walker, House Chair of Transportation, Sheldon, right? There was a significant effort and a unanimous effort to try to look for a long-term funding structure for town and to recognize that all the work that the committees have done and appreciated help in last year's effort in Jay talk and this year's effort in the purchase use. Fixing the T fund isn't going to, does not in any way help the town highways, structures and bridges.
Yeah.
And we're trying to highlight that that need is also just as glaring in that area
Yes.
as it is in the state transportation fund issue. So it did go 11-0, looking to be part of that growing town money that comes from pilot issue. I will expect that it will, the Ways and Means Amendment will be a pass in the
Yeah.
committee, but it will be substantially closer than it went out.
Right, and I think there's a larger issue with the pilot and how the pilot fund should be used. So I'm guessing that in the next biennium, that's going to be taken. That look like there's a lot of people who have an interest in the pilot, myself included. We've looked at it for various things, so.
And whether it's the pilot or something else.
Right.
The challenges that we all heard in relation to climate issues, resiliency, preparation for towns and highways and their costs, that's not going to go away. But whether we get help from the pilot or somewhere else, we appreciate the opportunity to push that out to make sure we understand.
So we're making our usual incremental progress on trying to solve some of these structural
I
problems.
think that's very fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that I agree with the Ways and Means. I agree with not using pilot for this,
Yeah.
but I also think I agree with the point that's being raised and that
Yes.
funding needs to be found for this.
That's right, that's right. So I think we're probably all in agreement that those are the issues.
Yeah, and I think what we're doing this year just helps to continue the conversation about that.
Yes.
We have to make some changes for the
That's
next
right.
time around.
That's right,
It's only so many years in a row we can try to
right,
shore things up.
exactly. Yes,
May I ask the chair a question?
yes, you may.
So the conversation about the mileage, judging things on mileage, we've been having it for EVs or even other cars, the way to try to equalize the use, the roads and whatnot. We've been having that conversation for a long time. And so is the lack of, being able to say we're getting there, or we're getting closer to finding the solution. Is that practical way of, was that a practical conversation in your committee? Like, it's too hard to track people's mileage, or we don't have a way, or is it a political thing where people are still having a hard time changing things in order to have some equity in the way that vehicles use the road?
I appreciate the question. Move towards mileage-based user fee for electric vehicles. Well, in the 5 years that I've been in the committee, that's been a move in that direction. It's been understood that we're trying to work towards that mileage-based user fee. There are no states yet in the country that have an electric vehicle mileage-based user fee that is mandatory. So this is what we're rolling out January 1st is going to be the first in the country that is going to mandate that battery electric vehicles pay. So I think it's a step-by-step piece. And the T-bill last year that came out of conference committee had indicated that the intent long-term was that all vehicles would be looking at a mileage-based user fee. So although some would say that the progress may not be quick, seeing that it's also not done anywhere else in the country, I might argue that we're moving pretty quickly overall. So you can be on both sides of that, but it was added as intent language last year, and we'll see a lot of learning going on about how we can and can't handle mileage-based user fee. So the answer is I think we're going in that direction. It's not entirely settled, but it's step by step. So, and we're ahead of most other states in this area.
Fully appreciate it. It's just, the lack of, I understand it's third rail. Which is electric.
I think our committee spends a huge amount of time, and I appreciate all of the listening that's going on about the financial area that we're in, and without new revenue, it's pretty hard to solve that problem. Thanks.
Okay, we ready to vote on the bill as amended? Is there a motion to support H 944 as amended by Ways and Means? John?
That motion.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, Tiff second. Turns out we're gonna have 7 bills today, not 6. We don't have to yield that. Okay, because it hasn't gone to the floor. We're gonna get it momentarily. All right, I'm not seeing any further discussion on the bill. No, so if the clerk is ready, let's call the roll.
Representative Blumenle,
Yes.
Representative Dickinson,
Yes.
Representative Feltes,
Yes.
Representative Kaczynski.
Yes.
Representative LaRoche. Yes. Representative Rowicki,
Yes.
Representative Nigro,
Yes.
Representative Squirrel, yes, Representative Stevens,
Yes.
Representative Yakubowski, Yes.
Yes.
11-0-0.
1100, and this is John Phil. Thank you very much. All right, thank you, guys. If you want to continue to talk, you can take the conversation outside the committee room. I'd appreciate it. Chair Walker, we're done with you. I can't do a roll call with just talking going on. We just finished, so if you want to continue talking, you're welcome to, but outside the room, please. Okay, we are gonna reverse the order or change the order of the voting of the three bills that we have. We're gonna put H 657 at the end because Nolan had to go and testify somewhere else at 9, so he'll be back at 9:30. So we will take up the unclaimed property bill. Lynn, this one is yours. Yes. And we have Chris Roop. We have heard this one. Chris, do you want to come and remind us
Sure.
about this bill?
bill?
Anything else, James?
Now, Kimber's just sitting here,
Jeff.
waiting on editing, should be done any day now, he said, and then I'll be back in.
Oh. Why don't we wait till we have the amendment? All right, why don't we go off live and we'll start again at